evening. If you're a landlord or you're thinking of becoming a landlord soon, here's my top tip for you today. Get proper tax advice from the outset. Go to a professional and get the advice. When you rent a property and you have a rental income, this may be subject to tax and you are required to do a return every year to the revenue. Now you can find more information on this on www.revenue.ie and I'll pop a link up with this video. But bear in mind there are some things you can include that will reduce your tax liability, such as a portion of the interest on your mortgage if the property is mortgaged. If you're part of a management company and you're paying service charges, these may be taken into consideration. Repairs and maintenance that occur during the tenancy, some of these can be tax deductible also. And if you are using an estate agent or an auctioneer to manage your property and rent it out for you, their fees are tax deductible as well. So again, I'll pop a link up with this video, and any questions, feel free to private message us. Have a great evening. Today I'm going to talk to you about presenting your property and how to minimize your risk of void periods and how those two things are connected. So number one, right, when your property is vacant and your tenants have moved out, use that opportunity to present it as best possible for the next tenant coming in. So if you've dark paint in the walls, paint the entire property neutral colours. Get some prints and mirrors from your local DIY stores, Dunn's, Morris's, Woody's and so on. The other thing you need to do is ensure that the furniture is fit for purpose. So if it is ripped, tarred, worn, get rid of it. You can buy maybe good secondhand suites or go into some of your local stores. Again, you'll always pick up bargains on furniture. The other thing is ensure your flooring is in good order. So again, if there's carpets that are tarred and worn, consider replacing them with laminate because laminate will last for so many more years than carpets. It doesn't really require that much cleaning in between tenancies and it doesn't really mark or scratch. And by doing these things, there is a connection then with you finding your next tenant. So you have a well-presented property, you have a selection of people, good quality people looking for a well-presented property. And because you've created a comfortable home from them, the likelihood is at the end of the lease, they may not have that many reasons to move out and look for something else. So the more comfortable you can make your property within reasons means that the likelihood is the tenant will stay on beyond 12 months or more, hopefully. In turn, that means you have avoided void periods. Now, what a void period is a period when the property is vacant and you're not getting any rental income from it. So imagine the tenant has moved out, you have to go and inspect it, you have to wait for a painter to paint a wall, you have to wait for furniture and so on before you can put the next tenant in. So you're avoiding all that by having a well-presented, maintained property from the outset. Today I'm going to talk to you about health and safety. Now, as a landlord, you are responsible for the health and safety of your tenants when you rent them out of property. So it is very important that you maintain your property to the correct standards as set out by law. The most recent piece of legislation surrounding minimum standards for rented accommodation is the Housing Regulations 2019, and I'll pop a link up as well with this post so you can read up more on it. Now, the regulations cover a whole host of situations and requirements that you need to have in your property. So I am just going to put out a few of them here this evening because I feel that sometimes when I meet landlords, they're not aware of all of these and sometimes they could overlook something just from not realizing that they need to comply with the regulations. And that could be quite serious if there's an accident in the property or somebody's injured. So you need to ensure your gas boiler is serviced every 12 months. You need to ensure that there's carbon monoxide alarms on every floor in the property, but also in the rooms where you've got gas. So if you have a gas fire, gas boiler, gas oven, ensure you've plenty of carbon monoxide alarms. The other thing is you need to ensure your smoke alarms are interlinked either electrically or else a 10-year battery life. So the smoke alarms with the red button and you pop a battery in and it beeps if the battery runs out and so on. They're actually not compliant when it comes to rented accommodation. Yes, we can buy them and put them in our own homes, but you cannot use them in rented accommodation. You need to ensure you've got a fire extinguisher or a fire blanket. Remember, if you put an extinguisher in, you must service it every year, so don't forget about that. And also, any windows that are above the ground floor, they must be fitted with restrictors. Now, restrictors are like little catches that you put in the window, so the window only opens a couple of inches. This will prevent or reduce the risk, I suppose, of a young person or a child, actually falling out a window. So it's very important to have those in place. As I said, I'll pop a link up with this video so you'll have plenty of bedtime reading tonight. And thank you for joining us. Have a great evening. My top tip today is don't forget to do regular inspections. And what I mean by regular inspections is when your tenant is in place, some landlords will inspect every 3 months, some do every 6 months. That is up to you. You must give your tenants sufficient notice. You need to put it in writing and you need to agree a time that suits them. Now, you can't just give the tenant, would say, 24 hours notice, I'm popping in tomorrow, and walk in with a key without their consent. So make sure you get that consent, because it is actually set out by law. And also it is good to maintain a good positive relationship with your tenant. Now, on the inspection, the things you're looking out for is your tenant maintaining the property, that there's no damage, there's no rubbish building up and so on. But the other things you need to be looking out for is do have a look at your gas boiler, ensure, that you've remembered to service it. It has to be done every 12 months. Check that your carbon monoxide alarms and your smoke alarms are in place. Test them, make sure that they're working. Check that your fire blanket's in place, and also check your window restrictors. So you need to cover the health and safety elements of your obligations on your inspection. If you come across issues on the inspection that are related to tenants, such as damage, or the property's not being kept so well, or the garden isn't being maintained, and supposing that is their responsibility, or there's rubbish building up, you need to give them maybe a warning notice or a letter asking them to rectify the matters within 14 days, and then go back and do another inspection on the property. So it's important you do your regular inspections. If you've any queries at all, direct message me on this page. I'd be delighted to help, and have a great evening. Now, today's top tip is how to find and select the best agent out there to rent and manage your property. After all, your property may be one of the most valuable assets that you own, and you need to ensure you select the right agent to do the job. There are 3 things you need to find out about. Number 1, is the agent licensed with the Property Services Regulatory Authority? That is a legal requirement. Agents cannot rent out property if they do not have the correct license. The license protects you as well as the consumer. So you can check this out by logging on to www.psra.ie, and I'll put a link up with this post. The next thing you need to do some investigation on is their experience, okay? So there's a few things you can do here. Number 1, check out the reviews about them on Google and Facebook. Check out their social media channels, and this will give you a very good sense of what their customers are saying about them and what their customers' journey has been like. The other thing you can do is find out from friends, families, colleagues, about what their experience has been with the agent, if they've used an agent. And when you meet the agent, to determine their experience even further, ask them questions. What happens if things go wrong? What is the process? Unfortunately, at times, tenants may fall into arrears. There may be antisocial behaviour. What happens if there's damage done to your property? Find out how long they have been renting and managing property and what their experience has been like. And then finally, the process. What is their process when it comes to selecting the right tenant for your property? How do they manage maintenance issues? What happens if there's a leak in your property at 2 o'clock in the morning and somebody needs to go out? How is all this managed? Now, what I would say to you is, by looking at these 3 things, this will help you determine who is the best agent out there to rent and manage your property. Do not make your decision totally based on agents' fees. The fees are tax deductible anyway, and you want to use a company that really is a well-oiled machine, that is process driven and has the experience and the know-how to ensure your property is managed successfully. Direct messages on this page if we can help you, and have a great evening.